Please be seated. This is going to be a little bit different of a sermon today. It's going to be a sermon in two parts. I'm going to start off by offering a word to the youngest members of our congregation. So, would any children in the congregation who are willing to come and join me here at the altar? So Mari, Caleb, Isaac, if you want to come up. If you don't feel comfortable coming up, that's fine too. Grace, it's good to see you today. So while they are coming up to join us, I just wanted to share that I think sometimes, come on up, you can come up the step. Do you want to come up the step, Grace, and join us up here? You all just kind of sit around here, because I'm going to read. So, sometimes I think some of the most profound theological truths come not from the dense works of academic theology or the people who have been writing on it for many years, but from the voice of children's authors. And as I've reflected on the readings for this week, especially our first reading in Gospel, that have to do with that question of how we keep the Sabbath holy, how we appreciate those moments of rest that are written into the creation of the universe, and that God commands us to observe in our lives. There's a book that I think captures it more profoundly than I ever could. This is Quiet by Tommy DePaola. Have any of you read this book? Okay, good. Grace, I want you to be able to see the pictures. Can everyone see where you are? Got it, Isaac? Okay. Quiet by Tommy DePaola. This is not just for the children, too. This is something that all of us need to hear. My, oh my, the grandfather said. Everything is in such a hurry. The birds are flying so fast. And our dog is rushing after the ball, said the girl. I see a frog jumping high into the pond, said the boy. And a dragonfly zooming over the water. Even the trees are waving their leaves. Busy as busy can be. Let's not be so busy. Why don't we sit here, you next to me? The birds are just like us, taking a rest, singing their song. And look, our dog is tired. I think he's dreaming. You see the dog? The frog is sitting and blinking. The dragonfly has stopped beating its wings. Let us be quiet, like all our friends, quiet and still. I can think when I'm quiet. I can see when I'm still. To be quiet and still is a special thing. To be quiet and still is a special thing. So, my prayer for all of us this day is that on this Sabbath, on this holy day, we may find some of that time to be quiet and still, and to remember that to be quiet and still is a special thing. Thank you all. You can go back to your seats now. And now, as we continue on this Youth Sunday and celebrate the work of all of the youngest members of our community, Chris Hawley is going to offer us a reflection.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris Hawley. I've been a member of St. George's since my family moved to Durham, which was when I was 2. And these pews were where I would draw and read magazines every Sunday morning. Eventually, I graduated to Sunday school in the wing down there, and I began to learn why I was here every morning, besides the drawing, of course. As a Sunday school student, I began my short-lived acting career in the various pageants throughout the year. I played every character from a sheep to Joseph. And as a member of Sunday school, I determined that the next step for me was being an acolyte, and that's how many of you know me. I began with Father Michael when I was in 5th grade, and acolyting, which by the way isn't a real word according to Google Docs, has been my lens into the church and Christianity as a whole ever since. I'm here speaking on Youth Sunday, surrounded by people who are considerably older than me, and I like to joke that I significantly bring down the average age at any given service. And as I give you this background on who I am, I think that's important. As a high schooler, I rarely interact with or even see people much older than my parents and my teachers. So apart from the spiritual lessons that everyone takes away from church, I get this community that is so different from the communities I normally interact with in my life. And so now that you know who I am on Youth Sunday, I'm here to talk about Sunday, like Nathan did, the Sabbath. I always notice that Nathan tries to keep his sermons centered around the topics we see in the reading, so I'd like to do the same. As we can see in the readings, the Sabbath is a day when all normal activity stops, where God explains that we must keep the Sabbath holy as a way to remember all the good things that he has done. While we work the other 6 days of the week, we must rest. Now, the readings outline some rules for the Sabbath that might not explicitly apply to our world. For example, who is giving their oxen and donkeys a rest today? I don't see many people doing that. But the interpretations extend, of course, beyond Jesus' time and place. While you may not know what it's like to give your livestock a rest for the Sabbath, I'm sure you all know what it's like to want to be productive. Life is so short, it makes sense that if you're not doing something and taking advantage of your time here on earth, you're wasting it. You feel guilty when you're procrastinating, as I did when writing this reflection. You feel guilty when your alarm goes off in the morning, but you just want to sleep a few more minutes. We've almost been conditioned to believe that if you're not productive at all times, then we're wasting time. As an overachieving high school student, I feel guilty for my lack of productivity all the time. I hear about how my peers are studying and playing sports and making money while I'm being lazy. And if you know me, you know I do all those things. I try to keep myself very busy, but predictably it's never enough. There's always more to do. There's always more guilt to feel when you're not doing it. So when presented with this phenomenon, God tells us to take a break. Pretty counterintuitive, right? God introduces the Sabbath and commands us to be lazy while our peers are studying, playing sports, and making money. What gives? But to realize the genius of the Sabbath is to realize that your idea of productivity is likely flawed. The word productive stems directly from the word produce. I'm sure you can see that coming. But the word gives us an idea that to be productive, we must be producing, whether it's a skill, an idea, or something more specific like essay for an English class. However, God, in the form of the Sabbath, looks at productivity differently. He calls us to realize that constant productivity from a traditional sense that we explained will never be fulfilled. We will never be fulfilled by finishing one more project or completing one more task, so God tells us to stop. We must see that productivity comes from more than this. It comes from taking advantage of your time here not just by producing, but by fulfilling ourselves. Relaxing and being lazy are forms of this. Catching up with your friends is a form of this, and connecting with nature is a form of this. All the things that we are encouraged to do as we take a break from the Sabbath can be seen as productive in God's eyes. So as we think about this Sunday and Sundays to come, we should reevaluate our definition of productivity. We should do our best to escape the endless cycle of guilt and need to produce that we're so often trapped in. And with our new thoughts and ideas, I encourage you on this Sabbath to go be productive. There you go.
I think all that's left to say is amen.